Supporting international students during their time in higher education is critical. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to another Seaside consultant named Brenda. Brenda is amazing. The things that, Brenda, you have done during your time in working with international students, from creating a department from the ground up, all these amazing experiences and opportunities and events and relationships and classes, that you've done so much that has made such a major impact. So thank you for joining us today. Could you start by just introduce yourself and tell me what is maybe one or two of your favorite things that you have done in your time in working with international students?
Thank you so much, Kim. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love talking about international students, and working with them is my passion. I think one of the most valuable, meaningful things that I've experienced in this tenure of working with students is building relationships with them, learning about their skills, their strengths, their talents and gifts, and then customizing support for each student so that they can not just survive, but thrive. It's never a one-size-fits-all approach. And I think that's something that many institutions miss, is that they have these standard supports in place, but they are built to the average student. They cater to the domestic student, and international students come with such a plethora of experiences and global knowledge and exposure to other cultures, that they often process things a bit differently. And different is not wrong. Different is good. Different's fine. But when you expect them to perform a certain way, and that's not how they've been trained, they may be missing the mark without understanding why. And so one of the joys is that I get to know these students. I get to appreciate their culture, celebrate their culture with them. That is such a highlight. And then find ways to help them succeed. Many of these students are not just bilingual, they're tri, quad.
Yeah.
They have so many languages, and the code switching that's going on in their head while they're doing work is exhausting. And they put so much pressure on themselves because they are here to perform. And so we want to make sure that we're giving them support that not only encourages them, but helps streamline their efforts so that they can be successful. They can reach their academic goals, their career goals, and they can find ways to leverage their strengths to work in this system.
Love
And
it.
so one thing that I enjoy is being that intermediate person to help translate this system to their understanding, and then translate their strengths and skills to what works in this system.
Oh my goodness. And you're amazing at that. And just as a little bit of teaser, it's two things that you've done that have just been amazing is two events, is the World Fair that you created that was in the newspaper, about unbelievable, that experience on the university campus, and then the embassy gala. You know, just watching these students in their they dress up for the experience, and the food and the dancing and it's just amazing what you have done to create and develop and enhance those relationships. Now tell me, I know you have a degree from your BA from Cedarville in education. Is it education?
Comprehensive social science and history with a focus
Okay.
in education.
Okay, that's what it was. And then, but what I wanted to get to is, can you tell us what is your master's? What did you get your master's in? Because I think that's an
My
important part of
master's
it too.
degree is in education as well. And the focus became, as I worked through my graduate program, I really began to see the need for intentional support for international students. And I was introduced to developmental education and proactive prescriptive advising. And I realized how that could be morphed to be a really strong support system for international students. And that became my thesis.
Mm.
And I developed a program for supporting international students that involved a semester-long first semester course. And the result of that was 100% retention of first-time, full-time international students, which is
You've had
unheard
that
of.
for you had that for several years. That
Yes.
is unheard of, 100% retention rate.
And so much of that is not just the skills and the strategies, but it's getting to know the students, letting them understand they are seen, they are valued. And
Oh, I
so
love that.
the events that we put together were all to support that whole paradigm of bringing these students in, letting them know we're not just expecting them to fit the mold, but we are recognizing they have differences and beauty in their culture and
Oh, I
their
love it.
background. And when you celebrate that, you highlight that, these students thrive. And there's nothing better than seeing their faces light up when their music comes on or their flag is displayed, and the pride and joy they have in their country and the joy they take in watching you celebrate their country and their culture as well. So there's
Love it.
so much. It's a complete package. It's not just
Right.
academic strategies.
Yes, which you do so well. Now tell me, first question was your name and what have been some of your favorite things. Second question is, just share a couple of some common characteristics that you see of international students who come to the university. What are some of those things that you see them struggle with that Seaside consultants, you have the answer to and can help support? What are some of those things that you have seen?
One thing that I consistently see is students coming and they are fluent in English. What they are fluent in is conversational English, but they come and they are immersed in an English-only environment, and they quickly begin to shut down because their skills, although strong in their home country, are very average, below average here, not because they are incapable, but because they
Right.
just haven't lived fully immersed in academic English. And so they start to become overwhelmed. They either start to withdraw, or they start using coping strategies that are not beneficial to their academic success. So we help them work through, we give them strategies to use, we help sharpen their skills, and really it's a matter of time. There's no quick fix for
Right.
improving English language skills. It takes time and practice. Another challenge that we see is students that are coming from different educational systems. And many of them are memorizers, and they memorize everything in order to spit it back on the test. But in the United States, the education system is very much built on the higher order thinking skills of evaluation, synthesis, and we want students to take the information they know and use it in new ways, apply it to new solutions. And that process takes practice and
Right.
intentionality. And so one thing that we focus on at Seaside is helping to strengthen those higher order thinking skills, so the student isn't just working in knowledge and recall stage, but they are actually taking that information and applying it to new situations they may never have encountered before, to come up with a solution that will solve that problem or bring a health solution or an engineering solution that isn't necessarily in the textbook. And we want them to begin to think as they would in their career situation. And then finally, I think third culture students are often coming back to their passport country,
Mm-hmm.
but they emotionally and socially are embedded in the country and culture in which they grew up. For some of them, they will never return to that country. And so we see a lot of things, a lot of non-academic processing,
Right.
and not just coping, but adjustment that needs to take place. But if someone doesn't understand that background, they have no knowledge of how to work that student from the initial welcome to the university, and they need to address the welcome from. whatever country they've left, and help them learn how to make a new feeling of home here or wherever they are. And so there are intentional steps that they can take that impact their academic performance, but are not necessarily academically directed.
Right. Oh my goodness. I learned really early on in working with international students before the department you created was that it wasn't about the intellect. It was
Right.
all these other complexities around the adjustment, whether international or third culture. And what you have developed over the years, the things that you have done over the years have created the scaffolding to be able to help students. And it's been really amazing and powerful to watch you make a difference in the lives of international students. So I have a third question for you. And we could go on and on and on talking about international students, and there's so many different topics. Maybe we'll have another time where we could talk about this process. But what's a piece of advice that you would share with an international student if they're coming to America for the first time? Maybe they're a freshman, or just even in general, one or two things is fine.
Okay. I would say the first piece of advice, which they often don't want to hear, they're resistant to it, but practice your academic English before you come, because as strong as you think you are, once you are surrounded by those English speakers, you realize you are not. It will come, but if you work on it before you get here, you're giving yourself an advantage. Another piece of advice would be do some research about where you're landing. Get to know that geographic area, get to know what is available to you. I've had students arrive and ask where they can find the subway. Somebody points them to, 2 traffic lights down, you'll find the subway. They walk down expecting to get on the train when they're encountering a sandwich shop instead. Talk about culture shock. So be ready. Understand there will be culture shock. You will struggle. You will miss home, but it gets better. It takes time, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to seek out those people that will be a good support system for you.
Right.
And you have to be gracious to yourself, to give yourself that time to make that adjustment. It will happen, but it will be hard. But there are people and strategies in place to support you through that process. But one of the biggest things is finding an institution that has solid support in place, and then connecting with coaches and advisors who understand your situation, your student profile, and can support you mindfully, intentionally, and effectively.
Wow. And that's what you're going to be doing, is
Exactly.
helping students. And that excites me. I think this is a new area that's just going to explode in helping international students in this process. And so if you are an international student, or you're a parent of one who's going to send your child to America and to a university here, and you need that support, Brenda is the person you want your student to meet with. The other thing that you need to know about Brenda is she's also available to work with institutions about their programming. She could come in and kind of give you some insight and evaluation and some recommendations. She created a department from the ground up and has done an outstanding job. And so your work in higher education has just been amazing, Brenda. Thank you. I often think about all the people that over your years when you were in the head of that department all over the world, the students and the families that you have influenced, and how that's going to make a difference in the world. So thank you so much for all that you've done. And I'm so excited for the students who are going to get to know you and have that relationship with you, and to be able to help them in their time in higher education. So thank you so much for joining us.